When I told my girlfriend I couldn't afford a vacation, she said, manifest money like real adults do. So I manifested a breakup and let her manifest rent on her own. I'm Ethan, 30, male, and I swear this story still feels like a fever dream I can't wake up from. So my ex, Lena, 28, was one of those high-vibe people. She believed the universe could fix anything if you just aligned your frequency. I met her at a friend's birthday dinner 2 years ago. She was magnetic, funny, loud, the kind of person who made waiters remember her name. She told me she was a spiritual life strategist, which I later learned meant she posted TikToks about manifesting abundance while still calling her mom to pay her car insurance. At first, I thought it was endearing. She'd light sage in my apartment and say things like, "You're blocking your blessings with that energy." I laughed it off. I'm a mechanic, not a monk. But it got weird fast. Every inconvenience became a manifestation challenge. Flat tire? You attracted resistance. Late rent? The universe is testing our commitment to wealth. It was like dating a self-help podcast on mushrooms. She had this mantra she repeated constantly. Real adults manifest solutions, not excuses. That line's burned into my skull now. Anyway, this all came to a head last spring. Her friend group decided we had to go to Tulum because everyone successful does an energy cleanse there. I checked my bank account and felt my stomach drop. Between rent, car insurance, and helping my younger brother with college textbooks, I couldn't afford a $3,000 spiritual reset. When I told Lena that, she stared at me like I'd admitted to a felony. "Babe," she said, dead serious, "money isn't real. It's just energy. You need to manifest it like real adults do." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She actually pulled out her phone and showed me a YouTube video about quantum wealth alignment. Then she asked me to visualize dollars flowing to me like rivers. Meanwhile, I was calculating how long I could stretch a tank of gas. When I said, "No, seriously, I can't go," she pouted like I'd insulted her religion. Then came the guilt trip. "So you're choosing fear over expansion?" "No, I'm choosing rent over bankruptcy." She slammed the cabinet so hard a glass cracked, then started crying. Real tears, shaking voice, the whole thing. She said I was vibrating in scarcity, and that she couldn't be with someone who blocked her abundance. I remember standing there, hands still greasy from the shop, staring at this woman crying over my refusal to buy plane tickets we couldn't afford. Something in me just shut off. That night, while she was meditating in our living room, whispering affirmations to the moon, I sat in my car and realized I was done. If she wanted to manifest, I was going to give her something to manifest about. When I told her I was done, Lena didn't even blink. She just stared at me with this eerie calm, like I was a child having a tantrum. "You're reacting from your lower self," she said. "Let's sit and breathe through this." No joke. She actually dimmed the lights and started playing those crystal bowl sounds from YouTube. I was standing there, suitcase in hand, while she tried to meditate the breakup away. "Lena," I said, "I'm serious. I can't keep living like this. You're delusional about money, about everything. I'm drowning trying to keep up with your lifestyle." She smiled, and said, "That's just your ego resisting growth." I think that's the moment something cracked in me. Because all the little things, her manifestation jars, her refusal to get a job because working is a scarcity mindset, her habit of buying crystals instead of groceries, suddenly hit me like a freight train. I'd been bending over backward to make her happy while she floated through life pretending debt was a vibe. I told her I needed space, packed a bag, and went to crash at my coworker Jake's place for a few days. Jake, 32, is the opposite of Lena. Lives by spreadsheets, tracks every expense, eats canned tuna for lunch to save for his mortgage. When I told him about the manifest money line, he laughed so hard beer came out of his nose. "Dude," he said, "you're dating a horoscope with Wi-Fi." I thought that was the end of it. But Lena wasn't done with me, not by a long shot. On day 3 at Jake's, I came back to our apartment to grab some tools for work. The door was unlocked. Inside, the place looked like a self-help store exploded. Candles everywhere, notes taped to the walls that said things like, "We are one, and abundance is already here." And then I saw it. The vision board. Dead center, above the couch, was a collage labeled "Our Future Together." Pictures of beaches, cars, wedding rings, and me, my face printed and cut out, glued next to a photo of her wearing a white dress from Pinterest. Except, I hadn't proposed. Hell, I just moved out. When she came out of the bedroom, she was holding Sage in one hand and her phone in the other, live streaming to her followers about manifesting stability after betrayal. I was the betrayal, apparently. She didn't even look embarrassed, just told me I'd come back once I healed my wounded masculine energy. I laughed, because it was that or lose my mind. I told her, "You can keep your energy and your crystals. I'm taking my sanity." And then I walked out for real this time. But Lena, being Lena, didn't let go quietly. 2 days later, she started posting cryptic stuff like, "The universe removes what's not aligned, and some people fear the light you carry." Her followers, thousands of them, were eating it up. Then came the real chaos. My boss called me into the office one morning looking awkward as hell. "Ethan, I'm getting some weird emails about you," he said. Apparently, Lena had emailed my company pretending to be a concerned client, claiming I'd stolen money from customers to feed a gambling addiction. She even attached screenshots of fake messages she'd photoshopped. My stomach dropped. This wasn't spiritual. This was war. That's when I realized Lena didn't just believe in manifestation, she weaponized it. And I was about to learn how far she'd go to align her energy once someone tried to leave her. It took me 3 hours to convince my boss that I wasn't scamming customers. 3 hours of pulling receipts, invoices, even security footage from the garage just to prove I hadn't lost my mind. He finally believed me, but the damage was done. My coworkers started whispering, and one guy even asked if I was okay at home. It was humiliating. I left early that day, parked behind an old diner, and just sat in my truck trying to breathe. That's when I got the text from Lena. "You brought this on yourself. I told you the universe punishes people who block abundance." I swear, I laughed out loud. An ugly, hollow laugh that almost turned into crying. The same woman who refused to pay her portion of the electric bill because energy flows where attention goes had now decided to manifest me into unemployment. I blocked her number. Then she started messaging me on Instagram, then through burner accounts, then through my mom. She called my mother crying, saying I'd stolen her emotional labor and was trying to erase her spiritual brand. Mom called me that night, half panicked, half confused, asking what the hell emotional theft meant. "She's unhinged," I said. Mom sighed. "She always gave me weird vibes, Ethan. I just didn't think it was this bad." I wish that was the end of it. But Lena doesn't believe in endings, only energetic closures. One morning, I found her sitting outside my apartment complex, cross-legged on the sidewalk with candles arranged in a circle around her. At 7 in the morning, she looked like she was summoning a demon, or maybe trying to evict one. My neighbor, an old guy named Ron, was standing nearby with his dog, staring like he'd walked into an episode of Ghost Adventures. When I told her to leave, she calmly said, "I'm cleansing your aura so we can reset our frequency." "Lena," I said, "you're trespassing." That's when she started screaming, like top of her lungs, shaking, mascara running, screaming. People came out of their apartments. She yelled that I'd betrayed the divine contract, that I was stealing her manifestation timeline. I had to call the cops. They showed up, talked to her for 10 minutes, and eventually convinced her to leave. But not before she blew sage smoke in their faces and shouted, "You're all stuck in the 3D matrix." For a few weeks after that, things went quiet. I started sleeping again. Jake helped me change my locks, and my boss even pulled me aside to apologize for doubting me. I thought maybe, finally, she'd moved on. Then one night around 2 a.m., I got a notification, a Venmo request from Lena. 3,000 for emotional damages plus spiritual debt. I stared at it for a full minute, half horrified, half impressed at the audacity. The next morning, I posted one sentence on my private Instagram story. "Manifesting peace looks like blocking lunatics." Within hours, she posted a 10-minute crying video accusing me of being toxic, spiritually abusive, and financially manipulative. Her followers started DMing me. Some sent hate. Others sent sympathy. One girl even wrote, "She did this to her ex too. Check her Reddit history." That's when I realized something I hadn't before. Lena wasn't just unstable, she was patterned. And if she was going to keep trying to destroy me, maybe it was time to manifest something of my own. Not love, not peace, payback. I didn't go for revenge right away. At first, I just wanted distance, peace. I deleted every photo of Lena, scrubbed her from my socials, even changed my number, but she found new ways in. Fake accounts, anonymous emails. The universe doesn't like being ignored, one message said. I started wondering if she actually believed she was the universe. Jake was the one who said, "Bro, you can't win a war if you keep pretending there isn't one." That hit. Because he was right. She wasn't going to stop until I looked like the villain in her story. So I started paying attention, watching, waiting. And then, the opportunity basically manifested itself. I found out Lena had started a new coaching program. She was selling $600 manifestation mentorships through her Instagram, promising women she could teach them how to attract their dream life in 6 weeks. I nearly choked when I saw her first video. The same recycled motivational phrases she used to scream at me. Money is energy. Fear blocks flow. Don't chase, attract. Except this time she was charging for it. I watched quietly for a while. Her comment section was full of people saying she changed their lives, that she was an inspiration. Meanwhile, she still owed 3 months of back rent. But then one of Jake's friends, Olivia, who does graphic design, sent me a DM. "Hey, isn't this your ex? She just used one of my logos without permission." Bingo. Turns out Lena was stealing brand assets from small creators. She'd grab pre-made templates from Etsy, slap her name on them, and sell them to her clients as custom manifestation branding. She was also using fake testimonials, literally AI-generated faces, to look legit. So I started documenting. Screenshots, dates, original sources, everything. I didn't want to ruin her life. I just wanted her to stop ruining mine. The final push came when I got an envelope in the mail addressed to my landlord. Inside was a printed letter claiming I was harassing Lena, that she feared for her safety, and that he should evict me before energy turns violent. The signature? Anonymous, but guided by spirit. She was trying to get me kicked out of my apartment. That night, I drove to Jake's place, told him everything, and he grinned that evil, slow grin he gets when he's about to cause chaos. Let's turn her manifestation into a revelation. He explained that his sister worked for a small online magazine that did exposés on influencer scams, coaches selling empty promises, fake wellness gurus, you name it. So we packaged everything I'd found into one clean file. The fake logos, the doctored reviews, even her Venmo request for emotional debt. I wrote a summary explaining how she'd built her brand off of lies. 3 weeks later, the article dropped. The manifestation mentor who manifested other people's work. It exploded. Her followers turned overnight, accusing her of fraud. People demanded refunds. Sponsors dropped her. Her TikTok went from daily affirmations to panicked live streams about dark forces trying to silence lightworkers. I should have felt bad, but I didn't. Because for the first time in months, my phone was quiet. No texts, no drama, no crying videos, just silence. And then, about a week later, came the knock on my door. When I opened it, Lena was standing there, hair a mess, barefoot, holding a half-burned sage stick. Her eyes were wild, glassy. "You did this," she whispered. "You manifested my downfall." And for a second, I almost pitied her, almost. But then she smiled, slow, eerie, and said, "You think this is over? The universe doesn't forget debt?" I didn't know it yet, but she was right about one thing. It wasn't over. Next, Update 1. Ethan returns to Reddit to process the chaos, react to public sympathy and disbelief, and reveal the next twist Lena unleashes. Update. Hey Reddit, it's Ethan again. Yeah? I didn't expect to be back here this soon, but holy hell, things escalated. First off, I just want to say thanks. I didn't think anyone would care about my little manifestation nightmare, but the amount of support and comedy gold in the comments honestly blew me away. My favorite one was, "She didn't manifest wealth, she manifested a restraining order." I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my coffee. Anyway, here's what's happened since that last post. After the article about Lena went viral, things got insane. Her followers turned on her almost instantly, like wolves. Comment sections full of scammer and fake guru emojis. A few even tagged the platforms she used for her coaching business, demanding they shut her down. Within a week, her PayPal and Instagram accounts got suspended. And that should have been the end of it, right? Nope. About 3 days after the article dropped, I started getting weird deliveries. First, it was a package full of salt. Just a plain box filled with coarse salt. Then a black candle. Then, no joke, a dead bouquet with a note that said, "The energy you send out comes back tenfold." I don't scare easy, but that one made me double-check my locks. Jake told me not to engage. "You won," he said. "Don't give her attention. That's her fuel." But the thing is, Lena doesn't run on logic. She runs on delusion. One night, I got home from work and there was this chalky white powder across my front step in the shape of some kind of symbol. My neighbor Ron saw it too and yelled from his porch, "Is that witchcraft or cocaine?" I swept it up and called the cops just to file a report, mostly to have a record. The officer who came by was this tired guy in his 40s who sighed halfway through my story and said, "Let me guess, the Crystal Girl?" Apparently, this wasn't his first Lena sighting. They gave her a warning. That should have been enough, but no. 2 nights later, around midnight, I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. Dozens of texts from unknown numbers, screenshots, memes, threats, all variations of, "You'll regret crossing a divine woman." I recognized a few names. They were her followers. She'd sent her cult after me. So I did what any rational man with a vindictive ex-girlfriend and a newfound Reddit fanbase would do. I documented everything, screenshots, messages, timestamps, the whole digital horror show. Jake helped me organize it into a clean PDF because he's a nerd like that. Then I sent it to her mother. Yep, her mom. Because somewhere between all this chaos, I remembered that Lena once told me her mom was ashamed of her career and thought she was wasting her life online. I figured if anyone could make her stop, it'd be the woman who raised her. 2 days later, the harassment stopped. Just silence. I thought maybe her mom had finally gotten through to her. Then I got one last message from Lena. "You win this round, Ethan, but you can't manifest peace while I still exist in your timeline." Then she blocked me. So yeah, I guess I manifested freedom, for now anyway. But something tells me she's not done. And I've got a bad feeling that whatever she's planning next, it won't be digital. Next, the final unraveling. Lena reappears in person, and Ethan's peace turns into something far more dangerous. It was about a month after the salt incident when I saw her again. I'd started to feel normal again, like the fog had finally lifted. Work was good. Jake and I were hitting the gym after shifts, and for the first time in months, I could walk into my apartment without bracing for chaos. I even started talking to someone new, a bartender named Rachel, 27, who had this dry, no-bullshit humor that was the complete opposite of Lena's glittery nonsense. So when Rachel came over one Friday night, I thought it was finally safe to let my guard down. We were cooking pasta, music playing low, when my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "Funny, you replaced enlightenment with alcohol and cheap perfume." I froze. Rachel noticed and asked if something was wrong. I brushed it off, told her it was just a spam text, but my stomach was doing somersaults. Then came the knock. 3 hard raps on the door. I opened it without thinking. And there she was. Lena. Hair wet from rain, mascara streaked, barefoot again. She looked broken, but not harmless. There was this wild focus in her eyes that made my skin crawl. She held something, one of those glass jars she used to fill with manifestation notes. Rachel stood behind me, whispering, "Ethan, who is this?" Lena smiled at her. "I'm his unfinished lesson." I swear to God, the temperature in that hallway dropped 10 degrees. I told her to leave, to never come near me again, but she just stepped forward and set the jar on the floor. "You tried to erase me," she said. "But energy doesn't disappear, it transforms. You can't destroy what you created." Rachel called the cops while I kept her talking. Lena started pacing, muttering about energetic karma and the sacred balance. Then, out of nowhere, she slapped the jar. It shattered, glass and folded notes scattering across the floor. I instinctively jumped back, thinking she'd pull something worse, but she just stared at the mess like she was watching her soul leak out. When the cops arrived, she didn't resist. Just smiled at me and said, "Now we're even." They took her in for trespassing and property damage. I filed a restraining order that same night. Rachel stayed until morning, sitting with me on the couch while I stared at that broken glass on the floor. Inside those torn-up notes were phrases written in gold pen. Ethan plus Lena. Infinite connection. Money flows where love goes. He will never leave again. I burned them in the sink. Watched them curl into black flakes until there was nothing left. I thought that was the end. But a week later, my shop manager called me into his office again. He looked pale. "You might want to see this," he said, spinning his monitor toward me. There it was, a TikTok with almost 500,000 views. Lena, sitting cross-legged on her floor, crying into the camera. "This is for anyone who's ever been betrayed by someone pretending to be safe," she said. "I lost everything because I loved a man who manifested my destruction." The comment section was a dumpster fire. Some people were ripping her apart, others were saying I was a narcissist who gaslit a goddess. And then, buried between comments, one stood out. "Don't worry, girl, he'll get what's coming. You just have to finish the ritual." That night, I found one of those same folded gold paper notes taped to my truck windshield. Blank this time, no words, no message, just empty, like a promise waiting to be written. By the time the blank note appeared on my windshield, I was past fear and straight into exhaustion. The kind of bone-deep fatigue where you start laughing at things that aren't even funny because it's the only way to keep your sanity from cracking. Jake thought it was another mind game. Rachel thought it was a warning. I thought it was both. We called the detective who'd handled the trespassing report. He said the restraining order was active, but unless Lena made direct contact again, there wasn't much they could do. Great, so she could haunt my life with paper crafts and hashtags as long as she didn't knock. I started parking a few blocks from my place, changed my route to work, double-checked the locks every night. For about a week, nothing happened. Then Rachel texted me a screenshot. Lena had posted another TikTok. This time, she wasn't crying. She was calm, eerily calm, sitting in candlelight, saying she'd transmuted her pain into purpose. The caption read, "Watch me manifest closure tonight." That video got 600K views in 2 hours. I didn't want to admit it, but the back of my neck went cold. Because I'd seen that look before, the one she had when she set that jar down in my hallway. Jake insisted we go out that night, get me away from the apartment. We hit a small bar near the shop. It was normal for maybe an hour, beer, darts, bad music. Then Rachel called. Her voice was shaking. "Ethan, your apartment's on fire." By the time we got there, the fire department had already contained it. The living room was scorched, smoke still curling out the busted windows. The cops said it looked like someone had dumped lighter fluid through the mail slot. Nobody was hurt, thank God, but I stood there watching water drip from the ceiling and realized that every photo, every tool, every trace of my normal life was gone. And taped to my charred front door, somehow untouched by flames, was another folded gold note. This one wasn't blank. In that same shimmering pen, it said, "Energy transforms. Yours is next." The detective took it as evidence, but I could see it in his face. He didn't know what to do with it. No fingerprints, no witness. Insurance covered the basics, but the mental toll? That was all mine. I stayed at Jake's for a week, then moved into a short-term rental with Rachel. She kept saying, "She can't hurt you anymore." But I didn't believe it. Because the internet doesn't burn. And a week after the fire, Lena's followers were back in my DMs, sending flame emojis, whispering things like, "She already warned you." That's when I decided enough was enough. I was done reacting. If the universe wanted to play games, I'd give it a show. Jake and I spent the next few nights piecing together everything. Timestamps from her videos, locations reflected in mirrors, background noises we could match to certain areas. It was like detective work mixed with ghost hunting. And then we found it. One of her recent videos had a distinct neon reflection in her window, blue and pink light from the sign of a yoga studio downtown. Jake grinned. Bingo. So we went there. It was late, place was closed, but parked right out front was a silver Prius covered in bumper stickers about ascension, light frequencies, and, my favorite, "If you see me crying, I'm cleansing." I knew that car. We waited across the street, engine off, windows cracked, listening to the city hum. And when she finally came out, hood up, phone in hand, live streaming to her followers about facing her fears, something in me clicked. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was furious. This wasn't about energy. It wasn't even about love. It was about control. And for once, I was going to take mine back. Update 2. Hey Reddit, it's Ethan again. I honestly didn't think I'd ever make another post about this, but here we are. I read every comment on the last update. Some of you told me to get a lawyer, some said to move states, and one person wrote, Ethan, she's not a person anymore. She's a ghost that still pays rent in your head. That one stuck with me, because I realized that's exactly what she was doing. Haunting me, rent-free. But not anymore. So, here's how it went down. Jake and I waited outside that yoga studio for almost 2 hours. I know some of you are going to say it was stupid, that I should have called the cops again, but you weren't the ones living with ash in your lungs and threats taped to your door. I needed to see her face. Needed to end it. She came out still filming, that manic live stream smile plastered on like she'd just found inner peace at a clearance sale. She spotted me immediately. Her eyes went wide, but not scared, euphoric, like she'd been expecting me. See, she said, spinning her phone toward her audience. I manifested this. He came. Thousands of people were watching live. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. I told her, calm as I could manage, you're done, Lena. The cops, the lawyers, the fire report, everything's documented. I'm pressing charges. She tilted her head, like I'd said something in a foreign language. You still don't get it, she whispered. This isn't punishment. It's balance. Then she stepped closer, holding that damn phone up, filming both of us. Tell them how you tried to destroy me, Ethan. Tell them how you mocked my faith, my work. Jake cut her off. Lady, you torched his apartment. Her mask cracked for the first time. The live comments started flooding. Is this real? Call the cops. She's losing it. I said, you need help, Lena. Actual help. She laughed, a low, shaky laugh that turned into a sob. Then right there in the middle of the sidewalk, she smashed her phone on the ground. It shattered like the jar she'd brought to my door. She dropped to her knees, whispering something over and over. Transmute, transmute, transmute. The yoga instructor inside must have seen us, because within minutes, cops pulled up. She didn't fight this time, just sat there, staring at the broken pieces of her phone like she was trying to read the future in the glass. They took her in. The next day, I gave a full statement. Fire investigation linked traces of the same candle wax found at my apartment to what she had in her car. She's facing arson and harassment charges now. But the weirdest part? The police found a notebook in her trunk. Pages and pages of affirmations, except every line ended with my name. He returns. He remembers. He forgives. It was like watching her handwriting decay. By the end, it barely looked human. The detective told me, you're lucky you came when you did. And I think he's right. After all this, I did what everyone told me to do months ago. I moved. New city, new job, new number. Jake's helping me rebuild the shop. Rachel's still around, somehow despite everything. And for the first time, I can breathe without checking over my shoulder. Every once in a while, I'll see something online. Someone reposting one of her old videos, talking about that manifesting coach who lost it. But her accounts are gone now. Wiped clean. And maybe that's what peace looks like, not forgetting, but knowing it's really over. Oh, and before anyone asks, I kept one thing from all of it. That blank gold note from my windshield. I framed it, hung it right above my workbench, because sometimes nothing says closure better than a reminder of what you survived, and what you'll never let manifest again. For a while, I really thought it was over. 3 months went by after Lena's arrest. The fire claim cleared, my business insurance helped me restock my equipment, and I'd rented a small shop in another part of town under a new name, EC Auto and Repair. I didn't even put my full name on the sign. I just wanted to disappear quietly into normal life. Jake still worked with me sometimes, mostly just to make sure the universe doesn't try to jump you again, as he joked. Rachel was still in the picture too, which honestly shocked me. After everything, fires, police, my unhinged ex, she still showed up. She'd bring lunch to the shop, tease me about how I now flinched at the word energy. For the first time in almost a year, things were quiet. But quiet has a way of making you nervous when you've lived through chaos. I caught myself scanning the parking lot every time a Prius passed. I stopped using my real last name when setting up business accounts. The paranoia was still baked into me. Then one morning, a man came by the shop asking for a quote. Mid-40s, nervous energy, said he'd found us through a friend. He handed me the keys to a busted Honda and said he'd be back later. Nothing weird about it, until I opened the glove compartment to get the registration. Inside was a folded slip of gold paper. Not blank this time, just one sentence. You can't erase a lesson the universe wants you to learn. My stomach dropped. I scanned the parking lot. Nothing. Checked the name on the registration. The address was from another state. The phone number didn't match. I told Jake, and his face went cold. You think she sent someone? I didn't know. Lena was still awaiting trial, out on bail but restricted from contacting me. But she had followers, people who still believed she'd been wronged. People who'd written things like, "The Matrix framed her," on her old posts. That night, I called the detective handling her case. He said she'd been mostly quiet, staying with family, doing mandated therapy. No sign she's reaching out, he said. Could be a coincidence. But I didn't believe in coincidences anymore. A week later, I got confirmation that it wasn't one. I was closing up the shop when I saw movement on the security camera feed. A figure, hooded, small, standing just at the edge of the lot, not doing anything, just watching. I stepped outside, called out, but they bolted before I could get close. I replayed the footage later, frame by frame. And there it was, the reflection of a gold bracelet on their wrist. The same kind Lena used to wear, the one with tiny letters that spelled "Align." I sent the video to the detective. He said they'd check it out, but I could tell he thought I was paranoid. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't random. That weekend, Rachel found me sitting in the shop at 2 a.m., staring at the feed like a man waiting for lightning to strike twice. She touched my shoulder and said quietly, "You have to live again, Ethan. She's not the whole story." You are. That line stuck. Maybe the universe was finally giving me a message I wanted to hear. So I started trying again. A soft reset. Therapy, exercise, new clients, new friends. The fear dulled. Until last night. I was locking up when I noticed something hanging on the shop door handle. A delicate gold chain. Attached was a note, same shimmery paper as before. But it wasn't a threat this time. It was a single sentence in familiar handwriting. Thank you for finishing the ritual. No signature, no follow-up. The detective says it's probably one of her remaining followers trying to mess with me. Jake swears it's a prank. Rachel thinks it's closure in disguise. But I know Lena's handwriting. I'd memorized it in the margins of those crazy manifestation notebooks. And if she really wrote it, that means one thing. Lena's still out there, and this time she's calm. Too calm. It was raining again the night it ended. Of course it was. It always rained when Lena showed up, like the universe was staging its own cliché, some cosmic joke at my expense. I was locking up the shop thinking about nothing in particular when I saw her reflection in the office window. Not the car this time, not some shadow in the corner of my security feed. Her, standing across the street, no hood, no phone, just there. For a second, I honestly thought I was imagining it. Maybe the stress, the paranoia, the therapy homework, maybe my brain just wanted a villain to blame again. But when lightning flashed, her outline lit up clear as day. She looked thinner, hair darker, slicked down by the rain. No makeup, no fake serenity, just raw, hollow eyes. I didn't move, didn't speak, just stood in the doorway while the rain came down between us like glass. Finally, she crossed. No umbrella, no bag, just a small box clutched to her chest. "Lena," I said, steady as I could manage, "you're not supposed to be here." She smiled faintly. "I know, but the cycle has to close." I glanced toward the parking lot. Jake's truck was there, thank God. He was in the back office. My phone was in my pocket. I could call the cops, but something in her expression made me wait. She opened the box. Inside was that same gold bracelet, a line, and a stack of those folded notes, dozens of them, some blank, some burned at the corners, some covered in handwriting so manic it barely looked human. "These were yours," she said. "You left them inside me." "Lena," I said softly, "you need help." "I got help," she said, "and they told me I needed to face the person who broke my frequency, to give it all back." She stepped forward and dropped the box on the wet pavement. Notes scattered in the rain, gold ink bleeding into the asphalt. I thought you were the lesson, she said, but maybe I was yours. Then she turned, just like that, and started walking away. Jake must have seen her through the window because he came running out yelling, "Hey, get back here!" But she didn't. She kept walking into the rain until the street swallowed her whole. By the time the cops came, she was gone. No car, no phone, no trace. The next morning, I found out she'd missed her court date. Warrant issued. No one's seen her since. For weeks, I kept expecting another sign, another note, another shadow, another message about energy. But nothing. Just silence. So I cleaned up the shop, threw out the box, and finally let myself breathe again. Last night, I went home to Rachel. She made dinner, lit a candle, laughed at me when I told her I might start a podcast called How to Date After Demons. I laughed too. For once, it didn't feel forced. But here's the thing. After she fell asleep, I went out to the balcony to smoke. The rain had stopped. The air smelled like metal and ozone. And sitting there on the railing, so faint I almost missed it, was one of those gold notes, just one. I unfolded it with shaking hands. No words, just a faint smear of gold ink, like someone had pressed their thumb there, then let it fade. Maybe it was a leftover from the box. Maybe it blew in from nowhere. Maybe it was nothing. But I stared at that empty shimmer for a long time before finally whispering, "I release you." Then I tore it in half, let the pieces fall into the street below, and went inside to lock the door. Because maybe Lena was right about one thing after all. Energy doesn't disappear. It just changes hands. And mine's done belonging to her.